Great, thanks, Nev, and great to be here. Can I have the first slide, please? Great. I was under strict instructions to use only 3 slides, which is a good thing, so that I can stick to the core things. And I chose these 3 slides because I wanted people to know this is the absolute core of what is important about Bluebird with respect to copper and gold. So we'll just start with the location. It's a project that's located on the eastern end of the Tennant Creek copper mineral field. Now, you have to take some time looking at this map to look at that this area actually produced over 5 million ounces of gold and 700,000 tons of copper over a relatively short period, had multiple mines operating, producing both gold and copper from gold and copper concentrates or gold on its own. Now, you'll see if you look closely at this map, you'll see the big dots are effectively well over 1 million ounce deposits, and the dots that have got orange inside of them are copper and gold deposits, which produced over 100,000 tons of copper and gold. So there's some monsters in here. The other thing you'll notice is that the light green on this map shows where the underlying geology that supports all these deposits on these long structures actually is. And over at Bluebird, where the new discovery was made a couple of years ago, is completely blind. And in geological terms, that means it's hidden under cover from what we normally would see. Essentially giving us a huge upside here. We've made a new discovery in this field that shows that on our tenements alone, we've got a bigger opportunity to extend this discovery. And at the moment, up until this point, we've had some significant intersections across time. So just go to the next slide for me. So just recently, we put out some drill results from a program we've done. But in addition, on the left-hand side of this plot, you'll see some older intersections we've had in this area before. So there's some significant widths here. What you're looking at in the diagram is some of the intersections we've had more recently. So if you concentrate on the purples and blues, you'll see that's the ore body as defined. It's a couple of 100 meters long and a couple of 100 meters deep. And with the grades we've been getting of like 2% copper, 11 grams of gold, 2% copper, 7% copper over 14 meters in the past, we've got a significant body of mineralization already. What we were able to achieve in the recent program, in addition to finding some significant gold grades up in the we had 5 meters at 8 grams in one of our recent holes, included 22 grams of gold with quite a significant bit of silver, 41 grams of silver. This ore deposit contains copper, gold, silver, and a little bit of bismuth. And what you're seeing in these iron oxide ghosted systems is an extension that we've discovered in the most recent drilling. And you can see those multiple lenses there, both on the east and west of Bluebird, we're seeing extensions. And as a result of this work that we've done and the size of the field and the size of our tenements, we intend to go back to the field later in this year. There's still a couple of months left of the field season to go back and not only extend this deposit, but also look across our entire tenement holding for repeats of Bluebird, which are more and more likely to be occurring given our detailed information we've been gathering. So we're super excited about what we can do here at Bluebird, not only from what we already know, but what we can use along strike to the east and west. And we'll definitely be back in the field without a doubt. If you can go to the next slide for me. I've just spent the last few years in vanadium and vanadium processing, as Gavin will know. But one of the things I've learned in that space is that it's absolutely essential that we understand the metallurgical test work. So early on, when I arrived at Tennant early this year, we got on and we finalized some very, very detailed cleaner flotation test work, which shows we can produce absolutely fantastic concentrates from this. These are commercial level concentrates, can be compared to commercial level products. And this can be done relatively straightforward. We also see some very high grades in these concentrates that take the gold in an economic way through to the concentrate, just like the old times did. So I'm super excited by 3 things. The field is a field that needs to be reopened up as a very productive field. Secondly, the company has been extremely successful in finding mineralization at Bluebird and in extending it, and will continue to do so. And the metallurgical work that supports this tells us we can get these deposits and take the minerals out of them and recover the very important copper and gold from these projects. So thanks for your time.
Vince, an excellent presentation. I might kick off. So just in terms of what you're seeing, I mean, how do you extend the resource, the potential resource? When does that happen? is a current drill program has an ability to increase the JORC, or what is the company sort of looking at, sort of the next step?
So there's always had a two-pronged strategy here, Niv. The deposit is the deposit, so we need to carry on extending that deposit. What we've done with this last program is show that it's still open at both ends, so we'll continue to add to that, but not exclusively so, because what we've learned from our drilling so far in the detail is that we can look further along strike on our own project tenement. So we have nearly 5 kilometers of strike to the east and west of us on this one license, which sits right inside a critical ironstone corridor, which has a number of cross-intersecting structures, very similar to where the larger deposits are in the field. And we haven't tested those fully. So our strategy is always going to be two-pronged: grow the resource so we can start to build up the inventory, which leads us to a commercial outcome with respect to copper and copper mining, but continue to grow our regional targets, which are in fact more like brownfields targets now, because they're just down the road to the east and west. Every hole we drill in Bluebird, we learn something new about what we should be looking for outside of that. And that's really what our strategy is going to be. You'll always see two sets of results from us as we expand our work. Because in there, if there's 20, 30, 40 million tons hiding in that corridor, we've got to look very hard for it. We know this, but we've got the core of it that tells us something is there that is very well worth chasing.
And just a question from the audience before we jump to Richard Morrow, regarding JORC, because I know the ASX are making it a lot harder in terms of the competent persons. And so just in terms of the JORC report, is it mandatory to put in, and how are you seeing the changes of the ASX ruling impact sort of mining and even you, Vince?
Yeah, I've been spending a bit of time looking at what the ASX code is going to be doing. Luckily, JORC 20, whatever it's going to be, 2020X, will be out in a while. I don't think they'll get it done by next year. It'll be JORC 2026 by the time everyone stops arguing. That'll create some more difficulties around the economic definition of what is potentially economic recoverable. That's going to make it hard for us going forward. But what it does mean on the upside is that if you do have an economic resource and you're comfortable with it, then you can get that resource out there. So that's one thing to consider. Some of the other changes to JORC in the future might be difficult for a number of players on the approvals timelines and the approvals requirements with respect to the ESG requirements. But again, if you're onto something good and you do your homework and you work with the communities properly, you should have nothing to worry about those things. But it's the stuff in between those cracks that is going to be harder to work with. At Tennant with Bluebird, we're very comfortable where we stand.
Vince, one more question come from the audience just regarding the drilling. I know you advised that there will be another drill campaign before the end of the year. Can you give the audience listening a bit more about the context? Is it diamond drill? What's the sort of the size? Is it RC? What's the objective?
And thanks to the work that with capital raising we did with you and your team and your colleagues in Sydney at GBA, we've definitely well funded to do all of those things. I think it's always a case of choosing your best outcome, and our best outcome is to extend along strike significantly our opportunities in the Bluebird corridor. So if you look at that, you've got to pick which drill type is going to get you that at the most cost-effective and high-speed way. So we're right in the throes of that. Can't give much detail except the fact we know we are going to do it. We've got time to do it, and we've got money to do it thanks to your team. So we'll elaborate as we get there.
Richard Morrow.
Yeah, Vince, thanks for your presentation there. Tennant Creek Field has been a bit frustrating for a few operators over the last sort of couple of decades. What are you doing differently to the others that have been there for quite some time?
It's a great question. It's one we've been debating up in Darwin at the mining conference last week with some of the operators, Richard. It's very important that all the players in the field take off the glasses that say this is a model-driven field and look at the fact that mineralized deposits in that area take many different forms, and that they won't give you the same signal, both geophysically, geochemically, and you can't go and say, I've got a silver bullet to find them. You've got to use the best exploration techniques available and make sure that you're open-minded with the data you get, but get good data. Because as the previous MD of Emerson, who's suffered many a year in that area himself, put out to me in a coffee meeting, he said, look, don't think you'll find the ore body if you drill a hole right next to it. You might have to look a bit more closely to find it. So it's really critical that we keep an open mind and do good science and do it properly in the area. And that's what Bluebird is. Bluebird is a discovery undercover, which shows that that is possible, even in recent times. So there's a lot of undercover areas there. It's a super exciting area to be in. And it's a big field, as we know. So the prizes are hidden from us. We'll find them, Richard.